Good morning, gang. It is Kevin here for another beautiful morning show. Actually, I was in the shower this morning and I was wondering if we should change the name of the morning show. Just because they're like they can be long. I try not to keep them long, but I'm wondering if just because they are like the morning show, if we should come up with like a new name for it. Because we just call it the morning show, right? Like, it's not like the morning Joe or whatever. It's just... especially, it hurts because my name isn't Joe, so why would I call it the Morning Joe, right? So then, what's the other thing that we could call it, right? Because they're so quick, maybe like the Morning Quickie. I don't know. There's a lot of thoughts we could have out there. So let us know in the comments below if you think we should change the name of the show. Not the name of the channel or anything, but just the name of the segment, which is the Monday through Friday morning show. So obviously we still have our themes, like our life themes, which are every month, and we still have our what's the other one that we have, the Monday motivational Mondays. So that's obviously a theme to the morning show. We're not going to change that. Much to your chagrin, we are not going to change that. But yeah, let us know in the comments below if you think that we should. I want to see if YouTube actually has a poll or something we can pop into and see if people give us a response, like, should we change the morning show name? And then have people like suggest names, and I'll throw out the Morning Quickie or something. Kevin's Quickies. So yeah, no, that's great. We'll do updates at the end. This is kind of an update, and we probably should have pushed it off to the end. I'm taking advice from another YouTuber. I was watching a video the other day. And so I was talking to, I think it was right before we went live. I was talking to, I don't know if it was Amy Sherburne, if it was somebody that was on the show. It was somebody based on the show. I was talking to somebody. And I said, I was thinking about it the other day, and it was when I was a kid, my dad had a show called the Chip&Brian Show. And my dad was Brian, and his buddy was Chip, and they were into local politics in New Milford, Connecticut. And they were on public access because there was no such thing as YouTube. The internet was brand new. You had to dial into it. Like, it was very difficult. If you had a rotary phone, you had to... So essentially you had to dial into the internet, and then, this is like archaic technology here. I think like man invented fire, and then they kind of carved out wheels out of stone, and then they dialed into the internet. But I mean, that's my course of events there. But with that said, I guess we always get things from how we were raised and our parents and things like that. And I guess I never, you don't really, like, I'm doing this YouTube thing, and I'm doing this, the podcast, and I'm doing all this, like, public speaking. And you start looking at it and you're like, wow, like, my dad did this. And it just occurred to me, like, maybe it was a family member I was talking to, because it was like, what just occurred to me? Dad had his own TV show for a few years with his buddy, and they'd bring on political people and interview them, and it was controversial because, like, they would speak their piece in one show and then interview the guy, or they would talk about local topics. They'd bring homeowners on the show, and it's like, I have no idea where Kevin gets this from. So, with that said, that leads us into the next portion, is that, like, my daughter's been talking about starting a podcast, and I told her to get me some information on it. Obviously, they're going to be highly supervised and scrutinized with their whatever they're trying to do. Whether it's is it a talk podcast? Is it a vlog? Is it, and then Lachlan and Lennox Lennox just follows behind Lachlan because he wants the same thing, and he wants the same thing. They both want a gaming channel. And so last night, after they got home from church, that was Wednesday. After they got home from jiu-jitsu, we went through their we did some research. We went through and we watched some YouTubers and stuff like that. And that's fine and all. I just, as long as he's like, and I was showing him, I'm like, we're not going to start right away. I said, you're going to do research first. You're going to look into it. You're going to find the niche, the demographics. You're going to listen to what other people have to say before you and then we're going to formulate a plan, and then you're going to present your plan to me and your mom. And so, like, he seems to be the one that's making the most headway with it. Quinn let it just kind of fall by the wayside, and obviously Lennox is just following in Lachlan's coattails. So we'll see how that pans out. I don't know why these kids want a podcast. It doesn't make sense to me. Why? Like, it's not like there's anything else in their life that is driving in this direction. How come every kid doesn't want a podcast? Oh, it could be that their dad is doing it, and they want to be just like dad. And that sounds really sad when you look at it from my perspective. Like, I was doing this, and it didn't occur to me that my dad did this. Like, my whole life was just like a shock jock guy. Which is funny because he knew who Howard Stern was, but he never watched him. Like, he didn't want to pay for a service to watch him, so it's one of those, like, But, yeah, I guess the sins of the father, I suppose. The sins of the father. But, and actually, going down that rabbit hole of where my dad started his, with his Chip&Brian show, I was almost like, I got to find out when the show aired. And I know that I have tons of reels. I have tons of these just like film reels that they gave him, because once you film it, like, that's it. Like, what was Time Warner Cable or Charter Communication or whoever it was that, I think Time Warner and Spectrum was up in Olean. And I mean, I know they're all part of the same company now. They're all Spectrum, but like, yeah, Charter Communications, I believe, is like the parent company, because that was the one that was in New Milford. And we would go to this little spot next to the toy store, which was great because Dad would go film a show and us kids would run around with KB toys, which was pretty cool as a kid. Because you don't really need parent supervision at a toy store, right? Like, because I would think that, like, sexual predator screening is like top notch at a toy store, right? Or it's not, or we're all making that assumption that it should be, and it wasn't. So maybe it wasn't the best place to let kids run around without an adult, a parent, somebody who, it is what it is. But I digress. So I have just these tons of reels, and there was one, and I brought this up to both, like, I think it was my brother. I brought it up to my brother, and I think I brought it up to Amy Sherburne and probably one or two other people. Recently, I've been mulling this over. I remember being a kid and my dad showing us video editing. And he would show us things where, like, you put your hand up and you pause the camera. I just saw a friend of mine do this on YouTube the other day, or on Facebook. And he started to pull his finger, or he started to put his ring on his finger, and then he paused the camera. And then he unpaused the camera and he was gone. And then he paused the camera again. And then he unpaused it as he was taking the ring off, which gives you the illusion. It's just a little camera trick. My dad would teach us all those kind of things. And I was like, Dad, let's make a horror movie. And so we started doing that. And I just remember sitting down with him with an 8mm tape and some VHSs, and like him kind of like pausing, pressing record on a VCR, and like, and he had an 8mm camera, and we went over to this guy Bill Wilden's house when I was a kid. The town was trying to eminent domain his property, or they wanted some easement to his property for some reason. I'm not familiar with the situation, I guess. So like, I have all these old reels of my dad's show. And it'd be great to kind of restore them and have an entire like video log on the channel, like, of just the old shows. That, I think that would be cool. That was always something like a feather in my, like, something that would be really kind of really interesting. And I don't know, this thought popped in my head. It was like, man, I could start naming names of like political figures in New Milford, Connecticut, just because they would be on my dad's show. My dad was on the board of finance in New Milford for like 10 years or something like that. And he would help run campaigns for like mayoral candidates and school boards and like I said, I don't know where I get any of this. Like it's not like my dad did it. But so it's one of those things that I feel like yeah, there's nature and there's nurture, and somewhere in between is where things happen, and it's just kind of this is more of a reflection day for me on the show. Just kind of reflecting back to stuff that I went through as a kid, and it was kind of interesting. So anyways, back to Bill Wilden real quick. I'd like to finish this story. So Bill Wilden had this issue with the town, and my dad brought him on the show. But he opened the show with this scene that we made. And this will give you a little bit insight into my dad's flair and where Kevin's flair comes from. My dad had me pretend to be a lawyer and I'm like an 8-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, and he'd be like, I wore one of my dad's suits. He had them all rolled up and pinned. He had my mom pin me up, and I had a little tie on and the whole nine. And I showed up at Mr. Wilden's house with a briefcase, and I said, Mr. Briefcase, Mr. Wilden, I'm from the town, and this is our final offer. And I handed him the briefcase, and he goes, me and my wife will have to discuss this. And and him and his wife are there at the door, and nice little house. I vaguely remember it, but I do remember it being a nice house. I remember the yard because that's where we filmed, like the front driveway where all the trees were. There's some trees in the middle of the driveway. So Mr. Wilden goes, well, we'll have to review this, and he slams the door in my face, and then we pause. And then my dad goes to do the next scene, which is me hiding behind a tree, crouched down a little bit with my fingers in my ears. And then he clipped over to a scene from, I believe the movie was like American Hollywood or something like that. Some guys were driving around in trucks, like blowing up houses with rocket launchers. And I remember him going down to the video store and renting the movie because he remembered the scene. And he took a clip of the house blowing up, one house blowing up, and he just used that as stock footage. He just took it off of some VHS, and so he started segmenting these manually using a VHS, and then he was able to play that on the air as, it was the 90s, so he plays that on the air. And it shows. It looks like the town was so aggressive to getting Mr. Wilden's property that they were willing to blow up his house and kill him to take the land. And was the town really trying to do that? No, but it was shock jock value, and that's really where it all came from. So it was one of those and it was humorous, and it's a little kid. You could tell that it's staged. There's no impersonating a lawyer for the town. It was he's 9, he's 8, whatever. It was very humorous, and I was actually just telling some people I need to just dig up some of this. It would be great to try to find that scene because I know it's on a reel somewhere, and I have this machine that's sitting in his old apartment that I had with his stuff I have to go through, which I don't have time to do, but I gotta make time. And I have this machine that God knows if it works and how I'm gonna connect it, but apparently I can put the reels into it, and that's gonna be a whole effort in and of itself. And I know he also has some old 8mm with some of the stuff backed up onto it. So for every reel, it's probably the originals, and then any 8mm or any VHS would be something that was something he would have replicated off of it, or he had my mom record it at home on the VCR. We got it. Waiting for Spectrum to produce us copies is too long, and blah blah blah. So. But there's your nice little Friday trip down memory lane. And so here's for the update section. This evening, we have Miss Sonia McCall on the show. She is the alderman for Ward 4. And yeah, so she'll be on this evening, and we will put, as soon as that interview concludes, we'll do what we did with Amy and everybody else, and we will finalize them, put them up online. And you'll get to see that back and forth with me and Sonia today. So, all right, guys, we'll catch you tomorrow. We'll catch you later this evening on Life22.